This video is going to change the way that you look at sports betting forever. Now, sports betting isn't tough. It's the mental aspect behind sports betting. And that's what we're going to go through here on how the mental game affects you. So, most sports bettors, you're trying to beat a certain line for a team. Okay, most sports bettors, they get emotional. All right, that's one thing, is emotion kicks in. Why? Because either you're betting on your favorite team or you're betting on a player prop for your favorite player, and you have emotion invested into. This is where the mistakes tend to lie, because you are playing for emotion rather than playing for profit. So instead, if you're playing for emotion, the things that end up happening is when you end up taking a loss, that makes you go into a mental state of depression, pretty much. Really what it is. All right, you get depressed. Now, why is this? It's because you thought something was going to happen, an outcome was going to happen, and what you did in the research that you looked at didn't end up going through. But most people don't realize that no matter what you do, sometimes it just doesn't pan out. That's the way sports betting is going to be. That's why when you're hunting down lines that are, minus 110 lines, and you're trying to beat that and hit 54% of the time or whatnot, well, you're still losing 46% of the time. So you're still feeling that feeling 46% of the time, the losing factor. And most people can't deal with that. It's the biggest thing in sports betting is losing. When you're losing, how do you react and how do you move on throughout your day, and how do you realize that the strategy that you're using long term still works if your emotion takes control and you start making bad decisions? Because what this ends up doing is your emotions kick in after a loss, then you're chasing, okay? It's natural, okay? It's natural to start chasing bets. You start chasing your bets, and then you're making what? Bad bets, because you're chasing your bets, and your bankroll now is slowly going down and declining because your emotion and your mental game is not at peak condition. It has to be at peak condition to be able to do this. Now, if you stay to the end of this video, I'm going to give you guys my mental game PDF, so that way whenever you're feeling the emotions that we're dictating in this video, you could always refer to that, and it could help you through the times of when you take a loss or if you occur a losing streak or whatnot. Because, for example, I have seen people literally go through this emotional roller coaster in one day, in a single day. I've seen somebody win 2 bets in a row. They won 2 in a row, and then next thing you know, nighttime comes, they end up taking 1 loss, then they can't handle that loss, and then they start betting random stuff, and next thing you know, it snowballs into losing 4 plays. Now they're 2 and 4 instead of just taking a 2 in one day and going to bed. They end up being 2 and 4 because they snowballed after a loss. Because it's natural to feel like you need to get that loss back. But to break that mentality, to break the understanding, you have to know the numbers behind everything. Now, this is another reason why I like betting higher probability plays, okay? And it's not just because that's the strategy that I have that's worked for years, but the mental game behind it is less harsh on yourself. Because like I said, with this right here, when you're trying to play this type of strategy, no matter what, if you're really trying to be the best at this and you're even hitting 54%, well, you're losing 46% of the time. So if your mental state is not there 46% of the time, it doesn't matter about this number, because you're still going to end up losing, and you're going to snowball, you're going to make bad bets. Now, let's say, for example, you're winning 75% of the bets that you put in, all right? 75% of the time, you feel like a winner. Your emotion feels like a winner. And 25% of that time, you lose. Now, you've drastically dropped the feeling of losing. You don't feel like you're losing every single day or whatnot. That's why a lot of EV players that like to play plus money plays, they can't withstand doing it. Because if you're betting plus money plays, sometimes, you could hit 40% and still be profitable if you're doing plus money plays. But that means on the opposite end, you're losing 60% of the time. So your emotion of losing 60% of the time, because your mental state has to be peak. If it's not, and you react to losing, guess what? It doesn't matter. You're still going to make bad decisions. That's why limiting yourself to the exposure of losing is literally the best option that you could possibly do, because then you get the feeling of winning. You create big win streaks, all right? These are win streaks at this level right here that you could create, and you could win 10, 15 plays in a row, and you feel like you're on top of the world. You're not going to occur 5 losses in a row. 6, 7 losses in a row and feel like you have no clue what you're doing and your strategy doesn't work and you just keep losing money and pressing yourself to be able to bet more and more money on ill-advised plays to completely wipe out your bankroll. So what I like to do here is I like to split up the mentality into percentages so you can understand exactly how important things are. So I like to do it like this. 33% is going to be your strategy, okay? 33% is going to be your emotion. And 33% is going to be staying consistent. And then that leaves us with what, 1%? And here's the funny thing, the 1% is the bankroll. Now, most people think that this right here is the biggest part of sports betting, is your bankroll. It's not, because it doesn't matter what size your bankroll is if you don't have these together. If you don't have the right strategy, the emotional control, and the consistency, it doesn't matter what your bankroll is, because you're going to lose it regardless if you don't have these other sectors in the same mentality that you need to be successful. If you don't understand how important these three things are, this one doesn't matter, all right? Because you could have $1,000 bankroll, but you know exactly how to do it with the right strategy. Your emotions are in check, you don't tilt, and you stay consistent, and you do this every single day like you need to. And you could take that $1,000 and you could build it up to $20,000. You could have a $20,000 bankroll, but you don't have any of these inclined. You have no strategy that you know that works. Your emotion is crazy. When you take a loss, you chase all your bets. You only do it once in a while, and you skip days and miss days. Well, guess what happens here? Your $20,000 bankroll now goes down to absolutely nothing, and you end up with nothing. So that's why the bankroll is only 1% of the equation, where everything else is the most important. Now again, why is this the most important sports betting video that you're ever going to watch? It's because of this, what I just showed you right here. Your mentality needs to be at peak condition. If it's not, it doesn't matter what size your bankroll is, and you're going to end up losing regardless. Because most people, when they don't have the right emotion, the right strategy, the right consistency, it doesn't matter if they win, all right? Because it's just a matter of time before they go and they give it all back because they just don't have the right strategy in place, the right emotional control, or the consistency. So it doesn't matter. Winning doesn't matter if you don't have the 33, 33, and 33. All right? That's the way that it rolls. If you don't have that, you don't have that together, you are going to give back everything that you win, because that's what sports bettors do, is they'll go and they'll win a bunch of money, but then they'll come right back and just shell it right back, and next thing you know, after a year or two, they're down money. So it doesn't matter when somebody hits that one big parlay, because they're going to spend the rest of their life chasing that feeling again and donating it all right back. Now, if you want to bypass this whole entire thing that I just pretty much discussed with you guys, and you guys want the right strategy in place, the right emotional roadmap, and the blueprint of consistency to be able to do this at a high level and actually take this to the next level where you can actually make money and be profitable, make sure you guys click the link in the description. So how do we make sure that we have the right systems in place for this? So your first one, like I said before, is what? Strategy. So what do you have to do here? To have the right strategy in place, to know if your strategy works, you need to be able to track your bets. If you're not tracking your bets, you have no idea if the strategy that you're using works or not. You have no clue, because most people will not track their stuff, and they'll just go out there and bet and not know what they did to come up with those plays that they're actually betting on. Think about this. How many people go out there and just bet on a game because the game's on TV and they have a gut feeling thinking this team's going to beat this team? If you went to a financial advisor and literally told them that you're going to put your money on something and it's just because you have a gut feeling and you don't really know too much about it, and I'm just going to take a chance, they would look at you like you're stupid. So always think about that. When you're going to put in a bet, you should have a real justification behind that bet that you could explain to a financial advisor of why you're putting that money on that play. If you have a bunch of stipulations that back that bet because you've tracked it, then it makes more sense. Then it makes you sound more educated of the reason why you're doing it. Now, you're not going to win 100% of the time because that's just not the way that it rolls. But you will set yourself up with a better shot when you have the reasoning behind. So next time you put in a bet, think about the reason why you're putting that bet in and what's making you put that bet in. Now let's go to the emotion here. Emotion, what do we do here? Well, there's a couple things that you can do. First thing is going to be phone usage. Your phone, all right? Most people will sit there and keep refreshing if they're not watching the game. They'll keep refreshing and seeing what's going on. You have to stop that, okay? No matter if you're going to keep refreshing your phone or not, it's not going to change the outcome of the game. And all it's going to do is take your brain away from whatever it is you're doing at that moment that maybe needs to be tended to, like family time, dinner, on a date, anything like that. Instead, you're worried about if your bet's going to win or not. The outcome is not going to change the many times that you look at your phone. Doesn't matter, okay? The outcome is going to stay the same. So the phone needs to go away most of the time to keep your emotion in check. I like to tell people this, like if you like to watch the game and you want to enjoy betting on the game, that's fine. You bet on the game, you can sit there and watch it if that's what you planned on doing for the night. But if you're out doing something and you didn't intend on watching that game and you keep flipping through your phone, your emotions are going to be all over the place because maybe one moment it looks like you're winning, then it looks like you lost, then it looks like you're up, then it looks like you're going to lose. And your emotions just keep going up and down, up and down. It dictates the night that you're going out and you're doing stuff. And next thing you know, you lose the bet and you're in a bad mood for the whole entire night. This happens to people all the time. You could always pick them out in the sports book, somebody that lost a bet because they got that sad ass look on their face and they're sitting there looking like all depressed and everything. And then the person that wins, you could see they're all happy and they're drinking and they're having fun. You could always see that. You need to keep those emotions in check because the phone dictates most of that. Now let's talk about consistent, all right? Staying consistent here. What do we got to do to stay consistent? You have to look at this as it's another job, okay? Not just a hobby. A hobby is something that you lose money at. I'm just being honest. That's what a hobby is. Hobby is something that you do after work and you lose money or you give money away for the emotional feel. You have to look at this as another job. Look at it as something you must do every single day. Yes, maybe you could take a day or two off here and there when there's not many things that match up with a strategy that you're looking at, okay, the strategy that you're using. Maybe one day there's not any plays. That's okay. But just taking off for no reason, you wouldn't do that at your job, right? Because why? You would end up getting fired. So look at it the same way. If I don't stay consistent with doing what I'm doing with the right strategy, I'm going to get fired from my job of sports betting. And now how you're going to get fired with that is you're going to have no bankroll. You're not going to have nothing left to do. Essentially, that's being fired. So make sure that you look at it as a job or a business, okay? Because either or, it's the same exact thing. If you look at it as a job or a business, you have to stay consistent with it. Because if you're not, you will fall off the wagon, you will miss days, and you will lose. You will. You will ultimately lose, and you will get fired, or you will lose your business in sports betting. Now, if you guys want the PDF that I told you that you'd get in the beginning, click the link in the description, and it's going to give you some little tips and tricks for keeping these in check and keeping your mental game in check so you know exactly what to do day in and day out. You could refer to it whenever your emotions are a little bit high and maybe when your emotions are a little bit low and you need a little something just to be able to get yourself in the right direction.